Assalamu alaikum, I'm Abdul Haseeb, and what brings me to your proposition today are principles. Not just ordinary principles, the principles of life and work. The first question which rises up right now is, what are principles? Now, principles in simple terms are fundamental truths that serve as behaviors. Behaviors that get us what we want from our life. They can be used again and again in similar situations to help us achieve our goals. For any organization, a group of people, for any individual, for any single person, the goals he wants to achieve, the targets he has. There's one thing that must be certain. His work principles, the things that he does professionally, the things that are a source of income to him, should be aligned with his life principles, with the personal principles, something that matters to only you. This should be perfectly aligned. Only then you can achieve the behaviors that get you what you want from your life. Now, if firstly we look at the personal things, at the life principles, what do they aim at? Before we look at them, we need to know that what is their core idea, what do they depict, what is that they want to tell us, or what is it that means to be a life principle. That is truth, or more precisely, an accurate understanding of reality, because that is something that will only give you a good outcome in the end. And life principles, they need to aim right there. Now, think for yourselves to decide that, number one, what do you want? Number two, that what is true? What is the truth? This is very important. And number three, this links both of them. Number three is, how do you think that you should achieve number one? What do you want? And in the light of number two, what is true? And do this with humility, with open-mindedness, because that is something that will produce the best outcome. Target the patterns. See the patterns which affect you. In order to see that, what are the causes, what are the effects, the cause and effect relationships. The cause and effect relationships. Simply as that. Now, if you are hung up on the views that how things should be, how things could have been, then I'm sorry, you will be missing out. You will be missing out on learning how things really are. You'll be missing out on that what reality is. In the beginning, I said that we are aiming at the truth, a very, very good understanding of reality. So you do not want to miss out on learning that how things actually are, because if you're in a mist, then that's a problem, big problem. You need to get out of there. And that, what does that require? That requires evolution. Evolution is the single most greatest thing that is there in the universe. Because it is something that is permanent. It is something that does everything. To be good, there needs to be something operating consistently on the laws of reality, and it needs to contribute to evolution on a whole. It needs to contribute to it, because that's the best reward we can achieve. You need to realize this thing, you need to make it a life principle that you'll be only something that when you'll only be depending upon your perspective. You will be what depends upon your perspective, how you think. You need to realize that you're simultaneously everything and nothing. And now it's up to you that what you want to be. You're simultaneously everything and nothing. That's a very remarkable thing, that if you're everything, and it's a total failure if you're nothing. But in the end, we're looking at the truth, and you know the truth. You decide the truth. Because this is a law of nature. It's a reality, it's a truth that when one has to gain strength, when one has to power up, when one has to go to the advanced levels, there has to be a push apart beyond the limits. A push that is known as evolution, a push that we know as something upgraded. That is painful at most of the times. That is. But the thing right here is that we need to know what our setback is. Knowing our setback is really important. Is almost equivalent in importance to knowing how to move forward. Because if you're just looking at the front and if you're not looking at the back, that if there's something that is holding you from the back, because that thing knows you're only looking at the front. It's a good thing. You look at the front because you have to move forward, but you also need to avoid, you need to totally finish the resistances, the hindrances. Because the thing over here is that things cannot be compromised. The ones that are compromised are now uncompromisable. You're simply uncompromisable because you have to evolve, you have to understand reality. When you understand, when you realize, when you embrace that radical truth, radical open-mindedness, the deep-seated, the thorough-mindedness, right? And similarly, the radical transparency, they're totally invaluable for rapid change and effective progress. Totally invaluable. But they become meaningful, they produce meaningful work, produce meaningful relationships when you embrace that radical truth and radical transparency. They are part of reality. When you embrace the things. The point over here is that you embrace. Once you embrace things, you won't fear. You won't fear about the problems because you won't avoid them. The problems that you're facing, you think that they're just potential screamers, they're potential improvements for me that are screaming at me, which would mean that you would not avoid, you won't be afraid to confront the real problems. Because why? Because they're rooted with harsh realities that are unpleasant to look at. Once you have embraced the radical truth, the deep-seated, thorough open-mindedness, the radical transparency, there is nothing that can stop you because you have flexibility, you have self-accountability. You never rule out any goal because it's unattainable. Because you have embraced that, yes, the roots are having very harsh realities that are unpleasant to look at. You have embraced this. You know the truth, you know the reality, you're out of the mist, you've also looked at the back. That is evolving, that's evolution. And that's the single greatest thing in the universe. Now, that means that it's permanent, but it also has to be maintained. Set your goals clear, identify, do not tolerate your problems, diagnose them and get to their root causes. Then design a plan, push through completion. Push through the truth, push through the reality. Embrace reality. You have done that. And we aren't simply looking for the best answer that we can come up with ourselves. We are looking for the best simple answer right now, but not something that we come up with ourselves, something that is supported by the radical truth, something that has a thorough open-mindedness, that has radical transparency, that has been linked, that is supported by reality, by the truth. Because now you have to embrace it. You have to realize that your conscious mind is always at a battle with your subconscious mind. Always. You need to realize that. And that's the life principles. The only core thing is embracing reality. Embracing an accurate understanding of what's actually happening, what's actually going on. And it all depends upon your perspective, because you are simultaneously everything and nothing. But you decide that. What do you want to be? You decide that. If we look at the work principles, they have to be in line with our life principles. That is very important for them to work. Now, if you look at work principles, what are they? They're simply for a group, for an individual, for any organization. And now an organization, what is an organization? An organization now over here consists of two major parts, a culture and people. Great culture, great people, great organizations have them both. Great people have great character, great capabilities. Great cultures bring the problems, the disagreements to the surface and solve them. Because they love imagining to build something that has not been built yet. They love to do that. They love to look at the patterns, the terrifying patterns. They look at them in order to see that what actually are the cause and effect relationships. Now, when we talk about work, we usually do have a team, or even if you're alone, we do have a circle, right? And you need to know your role. You need to embrace your role. You need to look, are you a teacher? Are you a debater? Are you a peer? And is your role in line with your actions? If you're a teacher and you're still debating, that doesn't make sense. Are you teaching? Are you asking? Are you debating? And what are you? What role do you play? Realize that. Realize the reality. Now, everyone must have the right to understand what makes sense. Something that makes sense, everyone must have the right to understand that. But no one must have the right to have a very critical opinion without speaking up. If the person does not support his viewpoint, something that has a value, something that has a genuine reason, something that is supported by radical truth and radical transparency, because they're mutually reinforced. They're mutually reinforced. By what? Mutual relationships, work relationships, they're reinforced by that. And radical truth and radical transparency, they're really important, because they give the people the right to make mistakes. You need to bring a culture that allows that it's okay, make mistakes, but it's unacceptable that you do not learn from them. Then fail well. If you can learn, if you embrace the reality that you have failed, but why? Now, here you need to know about your setback. That is why knowing about your setback is so important. You need to get over with blame and credit. With these terms, you need to get on with accurate and inaccurate. Just get on with it. Because if you hire the wrong people, you have to pay a big price. People, they're made differently. People, they evolve differently at different rates, of different speeds. They evolve differently. So they always have a different mindset, a different truth behind them. They always have a different story. And the thing is that there are different jobs of different speeds, different paces, of different mindsets, of different stories, and they are suited to it. The thing over here is that we need to think like a sports coach. That no one person has everything that it takes to succeed on a 100% basis. Yet everyone